trying to put additional supports in place to encourage and support remote working and blended working. And look, I've made the point to you on a number of occasions that I don't think the supports and incentives that are there at the moment are sufficient at €3.20 a day for someone to encourage someone to work remotely. A targeted accelerated capital allowance for certain businesses to assist them in facilitating remote working for their employees, where it would be prohibitive for them to be able to do that. So what I'm trying to do is to send out a clear message within our taxation code that we want employers to be proactive in trying to facilitate remote working, facilitate blended working, and try and come up with innovative ways that people can work, that people can remain within their own communities, minimise the amount of commuting that they do in and out to the city. And I think the amendment that I put down here in actually facilitating this through accelerated capital allowances is one, I think, that reflects the views of colleagues at committee stage, and I hope that you can accept it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Matthew McGrath.
Cahirlock, Count Corla. 2 points before I go into the detail of the issues that have been raised by the deputies. The first one is, in the debate that is to ensue regarding what is the right balance between working at home and working in an office that will mostly be located in a city, I think we should acknowledge that there is a value in having city centres that are vibrant and that are busy. That there is a value in that, and that is not just an argument about Dublin city centre. It is an argument that is important for many, many cities across our country. And decisions that we make or that employers make regarding where work is to be located in the future, it is important that we don't lose sight of the value that there is in having vibrant urban cores to cities. Secondly, in the process that the deputies are referring to there are benefits to the employer in the decisions that could be involved in people working from home. There are savings to the employer in rent, in offices, in the size of offices they may need, in where they're located. And there are efficiencies that employers can get access to by being in a place where their employees are working from home some of the time. And if that benefit is there for an employer, the question does have to be asked about what, therefore, is the role of the taxpayer in supporting that decision and making more funding available for it. And again, these are the issues that need to be teased out. I frequently said to Deputy Naughten that maybe where we do end up with is something that is very blended versus where we are at the moment, with very few people working in an office and most people working from home. It may well be the case that the stable equilibrium that we end up with is not the opposite of that. It's somewhere in the middle. But it is an issue that does need to be teased out, and we do have to have a look at what are the benefits that employers may gain by more of their staff working from home. A final point to emphasise in this debate is what this means for our economy overall. I do believe there is value in having our workers, particularly young workers, particularly workers who are at the start of their career, being in an environment in which they're working with other employees. This is, and a big pillar of our economy is that we're a skills economy. How are those skills developed? They're developed in the workplace. And it is not in the long-term interests of the well-being of those who work in employers all over our country, and it's certainly not in the long-term interest of the development of skills within our country that we're in a situation that we have more and more people that are not spending any time at all with their fellow employees in an office environment. These are the kind of issues that we need to work on, we need to debate, we need to tease out. And I hope if in particular we are in a situation where we have the availability of a vaccine or vaccines across next year, one of the things that it will facilitate is the return to offices, and then we need to look at how that could be done safely and then mindful of some of the points that I've touched on there. In terms of how this will be done, there is currently a remote working strategy interdepartmental group. It's chaired appropriately by the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment. And this work is looking at these debates, and I hope will be a very important input into how we can resolve some of the issues that have been raised by the deputies. The current position is that remote working costs incurred wholly and exclusively for the purposes of the business by an employer may be deducted by the employer in the normal course of calculating the tax liability of their businesses. Depending on the nature of the expense, it may be a revenue expense deductible wholly in the first year or a capital cost qualifying for allowances over an 8-year period. This is in line with the treatment of similar costs incurred for employees working from the employer's place of business. It is important to recognise that not every employer's business can be undertaken by employees working from home, and also that not every employee is able to work from home for a variety of reasons, including indeed the nature of their home environment. From the perspective of the individual employer, there is no specific tax credit available to employees where they work from home. However, I'm advised by Revenue that where e-workers incur certain extra expenditure in the performance of their duties of employment remotely or from home, such as additional heating and electricity costs, there is a revenue administrative practice in place that allows an employer to make payments of up to €3.20 per day to such employees subject to certain conditions without deducting PAYE, PRSI or USC. Revenue have confirmed that PAYE workers using their primary residence as a workplace during COVID-19 restrictions qualify as e-workers for the purposes of this practice. So, as I've already noted, there is work ongoing in my department on this issue. An interdepartmental working group on remote working more generally is in place, and I believe that the work of that group will provide a way in which this matter can be debated with the Oireachtas, and it's for that reason I don't propose to accept the amendment.
Minister, my concern here is that, last year I made a similar argument to you. While the narrative might have been different, the position was the same, that you weren't prepared to support remote working. Now, my fear is that the narrative that we have now is just because we're trying to protect the value of pension fund investors that have bought a lot of office accommodation here in Dublin. And that's my genuine fear in relation to this. Absolutely, we need to support city centres, but the issue isn't in city centres. That isn't the issue. Anywhere across the globe, in fact, investors are coming back into city centres in relation to office accommodation. You know yourself in terms of Salesforce and the investment that it is making. Specifically, they want city centres and not any other location. So that's not the issue here. And I'm really worried that, we're taking an approach here that as far as the taxation code is concerned, we are going to be completely neutral on where people should work. And that in reality means is that we're giving an incentive for people to remain in the existing rat-run in offices, because people will be blended working. They won't be working 100% at home, which means that whatever equipment is purchased for them at home is going to be utilised 2 or 3 days a week. So there's going to be an additional cost for an employer with the hot desking facility, or if they're travelling to the city centre to work on 2 days a week. That's why you need to put accelerated capital allowances in place for those particular employers. And, this is a government that is supposed to be a green government. Surely it makes sense to take cars, commuting cars, off our streets of Dublin and every other street. And, Minister, it shouldn't be just about, having vibrant urban cores in our cities. It should be about having vibrant urban cores in our towns and villages as well, where you have these hot desking facilities.